Greetings and welcome to the virtual YMCA. My name is Teresa Renner and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm also an integrative nutrition specialist and I'm a fitness professional. In fact, some of you might recognize me because I've been teaching fitness groups at the Tom Taylor YMCA for about 8 years now. And I just love being in that community and I'm missing everybody terribly. So I am humbled and honored, very honored, to have been asked by our Associate Missions Director, Janelle Nelson, to serve as a resource and a guide for our community during this historic time in our world. The world is changing all around us and our everyday life has completely been upended. What are we going to do to take care of ourselves during these strange times? Well, the YMCA wants to offer you as many resources as possible, and they've asked me, a mental health professional, to talk to you about ways to stay connected to yourself and to feel connected to the YMCA. Our intention with these brief videos is to offer education, peace of mind, a sense of rapport, and support that you can utilize in your own self-care and in the care that you're taking of your family, your children, your friends, and your coworkers right now. We all have to look out for each other, but it starts with looking out for yourself and taking good care of yourself and practicing excellent mental health hygiene, as I like to call it. So while you're washing all your hands, let's wash all that negativity out of your consciousness and let's work together on resetting your life so that you can have the creativity and the resourcefulness you need to get through these times. Please be sure to share this link with anyone in the community that you feel will be uplifted by these offerings. Whether they belong to the YMCA or not, this website is available to anybody in our community. This is our gift to our community, and I certainly hope that it's helpful. So to prepare for what we're going to do today, just take a few minutes to gather a notebook or a journal and a pen and find a quiet space. If this is a video that you want to share with children, that will work just fine, but I suggest you do this for yourself first before you share it, because this is your time to just take a moment and contemplate your own consciousness as you move through this. So just take a moment, gather your things. You might pause and then restart the video. Right now, we're going to take a moment to center ourselves. And this is a great practice that you can utilize anytime you're starting to lose it because the kids are driving you crazy or you've been alone too long and you're just too in your own head. So this is what we call centering ourselves in our hearts. So right now, I'd like you to find a comfortable way to sit with both feet on the ground. Roll your shoulders and breathe through your nose and out of your mouth as the shoulders come down. Give me a few of these nice deep breaths. You might want to close your eyelids and open your inner eye. Kind of see and scan your body for any place where you might feel uncomfortable or tight, and just breathe into that space and imagine it melting like butter, melting slowly and softly. Your muscles are just loosening up, and you start to notice yourself going within. And take a moment to focus on your heart space. And just move into an intention to connect with yourself. Think about connecting with the deepest, most tender parts of your heart. Think about the parts of you that are perhaps feeling fearful or scared, and think about the part of you that is wise and ancient, comforting those parts inside. And giving yourself the opportunity to connect deeply. And in this centered place, take a moment to wish for yourself caring. Caring for yourself is so important. And wish for yourself respect, respecting the needs of your body and mind and of your soul. And wish for yourself honesty, remembering to check within and ensure that you're being honest with yourself and in integrity with others. Wishing for yourself responsibility, which is simply the ability to respond to anything that life puts in front of you, knowing that you have the inner resources to respond in a way that's in service to your growth. And finally, wish for yourself inclusivity, including all the parts of yourself, the shadow and the light, to hold all those parts within you, the pieces that are in integrity and the pieces that are out of integrity, to have a place in your heart that's full of compassion and love for every experience that you have in your life, within yourself and outside of yourself. And with these intentions, take a moment to breathe them into your heart and into your body, every cell, vibrating with the intention of self-care, self-respect, honesty, responsibility, and inclusiveness. And with that intention, take a moment to breathe and gently wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, and flutter your eyes back open and into the room. Look around your room and pay attention to all the beauty that's around you. As we center into gratitude, take a moment, put your hand on your own heart, and be grateful for this time to yourself and grateful for how hard you've worked. Give yourself some love for that. So now that we're prepared, I want to move into remembering the YMCA's core values. We just meditated on them. Caring, respect, honesty, responsibility, inclusiveness. Right? During this time when everything seems to be changing in our world, I encourage you to hold on to these values and to really exercise them in your daily life. Right now, I'd like you to take a moment to write each one down, and we're going to talk about them and how they might manifest in your life. And if they're a value that you really do care about, but you haven't been able to exercise, we'll talk about some ways in which you can exercise these values. All right, so go with me for a moment. First, let's write down caring. And I want to quote to you one of the most important quotes from Buddhist teachings to me, and that is that compassion is incomplete if it does not include yourself. And I think whether it's Buddha or Christ or any other people that have come onto this planet to teach us how to be in God's grace, I think it's about self-compassion. If we're not showing ourselves compassion and caring, if we're not taking care of our basic needs, then we're really not much use to anybody else. We just aren't. So I think a lot of us have been raised to feel like self-care is selfish, and it really isn't. Self-care is one of the best gifts you can give, especially in a time like this. Just taking care of your health to make sure that you're going to be available to help others that are really going to need you is really important. So instead of thinking of self-care as a selfish act, I'd like you to think more about self-care as a way to fill your own cup so that you can give from the overflow instead of giving until you're depleted. Caring is another thing that you can do out in the community right now, even though you can't be face-to-face with people. I want to suggest that you think about friends that you haven't talked to in a long time and that you check in with them. Give them a phone call. One thing I've been doing that I've really enjoyed is coffee dates via FaceTime and Zoom. These are vehicles that you can use on your computer or your cell phone where you have face-to-face meetings with friends over a cup of coffee. And you just simulate going to lunch with them or going to coffee with them. You just do it over video. We need to still stay connected, and that's a great way to show caring. And a lot of people are quite lonely out there, and they could really use the interface. And you could probably use it too if you're honest with yourself. So that's something that I might suggest that you do to show caring. If you're trying to demonstrate caring to your family, if you're raising kids that are stuck home from school, a great thing is to just kind of figure out things you can do in your neighborhood that would be helpful to your neighbors that don't involve you having to interact with them physically. So maybe you can encourage the kids to pick a neighbor whose house, there's been a lot of wind and there's a lot of rubbish in people's lawns from the trees. Maybe the kids can go help a neighbor and pick up any things that have fallen from the trees in their yard. Maybe you can connect with a neighbor and offer to go grocery shopping for them if they're stuck at home. So there are a lot of ways that you can show caring and that you can encourage your family to do that. So those are just a few. And in your journal where you write caring, I want you to make a list of ways that you can care for yourself, that you can be more caring in that area, and then ways that you can be caring for other people. And my suggestion is that you commit to one self-caring act and one caring act for another on a daily basis. I think most people do caring acts all the time and they don't even think about it. So those things count. So just pay attention to all the caring acts that you do and really give yourself some love for that. Let's move now to respect. So we live in kind of crazy times right now, and showing self-respect, to me, that's a lot to do with caring for yourself. Self-respect means getting enough sleep at night and eating healthy food and really checking in with yourself and respecting what your body needs. Sometimes, especially I've noticed working from home, I just go, 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 go. And because I'm at home, it feels somewhat like you're on vacation, but I notice then I've gone 5 hours without eating. That's not really respecting my body's needs. So the other thing too is it's been hard to exercise and to really set a timer so that I'll get up and go for a walk or get some outdoor time. Respect with the world right now is a little crazy because I know a lot of people are just popping off on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else about their political opinions, spiritual opinions. And it's a great place to connect and to share ideas and opinions, but it can also go quite negative. And so watch yourself, check yourself. Are you being respectful with what you're posting? And maybe you want to share an opinion that you have, and there's nothing wrong with that, but are you sharing it respectfully? Are you inviting people in a respectful way? Try to ask yourself, am I sharing something because I'd like for it to change people, or would I like people to understand me better? I think sometimes when we're trying to change people, that's not necessarily a place of integrity. But if we're trying to invite people to understand us, I think that might go over a little better. So that's something to think about with what you post and being respectful. Honesty is the next Y core value. And honesty is an interesting value in our world and in our country right now. So before you start judging media or politicians for being honest or dishonest, I'd like for you to always check in with yourself and find out, well, how am I honest and dishonest? How do I skew facts for my own devices? There's this process in psychology called projection. And we like to joke in my field that things in the mirror are closer than they appear. If we are getting triggered and accusing somebody else of being dishonest, it usually means that we're seeing our own dishonesty and not able to really be honest with ourselves about that. So before you go pointing your finger at somebody else, remember there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. So are you being honest in your world? Are you skewing things for your own benefit? Or are you really giving an honest and integrity filled evaluation of things in your life? Something to think about. So I'd like you to write a little bit about honesty. What are the areas in your life where you could be more in integrity and more honest? And how would you go about doing that in a way that is for the highest good of all the people around you and for the different parts within you? Our next core value at the YMCA is responsibility. And I mentioned in your meditation that responsibility, from my point of view, is just the ability to respond. And to me, it's the ability to respond in a way that's caring, respectful, and honest, right? They all match. So this is a lot to respond to. You may have lost your job. You may have lost a loved one. You may have lost your health and are feeling sick and struggling right now. You've lost your YMCA community, it would seem, because you can't go to the gym. That's been a huge loss for me. You've lost the opportunity for your kids to go to school and have that social life, and they're grieving that. So how do you respond to all of that loss? Well, later in this week, we're going to talk about grief, and I will help you with some of that. And I think doing your grief work is a great way to respond to it. And rather than avoid it or dive so deep into it that you go very, very negative, we have to find that balance of staying informed and then having positive responses. There is a silver lining in just about any terrible thing. And sometimes we need to grieve first before we find that silver lining. So don't go for the silver lining too fast. But our ability to respond to immediate stressors in a way that's productive and helpful and caring to ourselves and others is going to be really important right now. So work that you can do in your journal around responsibility is, I find that a lot of people get overwhelmed. There's so much going on in the world and you want to be of service and you want to make a difference. But sometimes we get over responsible and we feel terribly guilty because we're not doing enough. So I'd like you, with the responsibility word in your journal, to just put a line down in the middle of the page and like, what is truly your responsibility? And then what is something that you'd like to do, but it's not really your responsibility, so that it can be a someday maybe and not something that you're just constantly feeling guilty about. So you're responsible for your own health. You're responsible for your family's health to some degree. You're responsible to your job to some degree. You know, these are the things, these are your responsibilities, and you need to shore them up. Okay. And in terms of helping your neighbors, it's not necessarily a responsibility, but it is a kindness and a respect that you would offer them. So some days you can do that, but on the days that you can't, I don't want you beating yourself up for it, because sometimes you're your most important responsibility and you need a breath. So balance is a never-ending fluctuation of who you're going to be responsible for. Okay, so I'd like you to make that list. What are you definitely responsible for and need to respond to daily in your own life? And then what are the things you'd like to be helpful on, but you need to be clear you're not responsible for them. Okay. And finally, in our YMCA core values is inclusiveness. And wow, to me, I'm so glad the YMCA included this. It's such an important part of our world right now, to be inclusive. When we have a world event like this, I mean, this is the first time in our lifetimes, it's the first time in several lifetimes that we've had a world event, and we're so connected through the internet. We can connect with anybody in the world just in a moment. It's just a really fascinating and exciting time, but it's also very stressful, and we don't know what's going to come of this. We do know our world will never be the same after this. That's a lot to adjust to. How do we add inclusivity into how we're thinking about how we move forward in the world? We have our core community, maybe your small town, like I'm in Gig Harbor, it's a very small town. And then you go out into this part of Western Washington, and then out to the state of Washington. And then we move into the United States, but then we move into our continent and into our world. There's all these levels of interconnectedness. How do we include people, places, animals, things into our world in a way where we're being honoring of them and we're including them in our consciousness? A lot of people, there's a lot of memes and a lot of jokes about everybody and the whole toilet paper thing. This is a really great experience of the thoughts of inclusivity. Like when I go and I buy up all the toilet paper in the grocery store, I'm not being inclusive in and caring and respectful and thinking about my community. I'm just thinking about myself. But when we're stressed like this, we feel like our number one responsibility is our family and we need to protect them. So we get gluttonous that way and we hoard. It's a very self-protective mechanism. And so inclusiveness is kind of, think about everybody around you right now. And can you take just what you need and make sure that you're including in your thoughts the needs of others? You know, to kind of resist the temptation to hoard and panic right now. And I think people are starting to realize that, and that's shifting quite a bit. But the other part of inclusiveness is, you know how you're responding to this in terms of how it's affecting your work and how it's affecting your friendships. But are you really thinking about how it's affecting your neighbors, how it's affecting people in Tacoma, how it's affecting people in Seattle, how it's affecting the mentally ill and the homeless? Keep these people in your thoughts and in your prayers at this time. Include everyone, even our representatives and our politicians, whether we like them or hate them, agree with them or disagree with them. Including them in our hearts and in our prayers is really important right now, because at the end of the day, we're all sharing this planet. And what's best for one is really best for all of us. So just praying for the highest good of all concerned and including everyone in your daily prayers and meditations and mindfulness is really important. You're not responsible for everyone, but you are responsible for how you think about everyone. What goes on in here is your responsibility. So express a little bit of gentleness when you're talking about others, whether it's your neighbors, your friends, politicians, people you don't know, movie stars, what have you. It's fun to joke and jest and jeer and be upset, but when you hold resentments and anger about others, here's another good saying from the Buddha: when you hold these things, it's like holding a hot coal in your hand with the intention of throwing it at others, and then meanwhile you're the one getting burnt. Don't get burnt by holding negativity about others inside. When we think about love and compassion, we want to always think about ourselves, show self-compassion first, and then we want to be inclusive in our compassion for everyone. So one thing you might want to write in your journal about inclusivity is, are there people in your life that you've excluded? Maybe there are people that aren't safe for you to be around. We all have family members or old friends that are just like not healthy. So you've excluded them from your daily life, but you can include them in your prayers. And so that's something to think about. Your meditation, surrounding them in light, wishing them well. So maybe write about who have you excluded in your life or thrown shade on that you need to kind of go within and make some internal corrections with that. All right, so during this time when everything seems to be changing in our world, I encourage you to hold on to these values in your life. All right, so again, if you didn't get a chance while we were talking to write these down, you can come back and rewatch the video, and just remember to write down caring, respect, honesty, responsibility, and inclusiveness. Maybe each day this week you could write in your journal about each of those and just have a conversation with yourself. The whole world has been upended and you're not alone. You're doing this with the whole world. Why not use this time to raise our consciousness as a species and reach out to one another and reach within to heal whatever needs to be healed for us to move forward in a growth mindset at this time? All right, I encourage you to think that way and be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Thank you for taking this time to connect with yourself and with your heart. I want you to know that you're worth your own attention. Remember that compassion is incomplete if it does not include yourself. And I say namaste, God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.